Hi. Okay, so for those of you who just watched my uh, apology video, for lack of a better word, my apology for not being around for the last couple of weeks, you're going to be like, Cozy, you look exactly the same. I sure do. I'm filming them back to back because right now I'm feeling good and I can do that. For those of you who didn't see it, I kind of give a little bit of an update on where I've been, what's been going on. Just suffice it to say, I'm not doing so hot physically. I'm in a lot of pain. Having a lot of headaches, having a lot of everything. So if you want to go find out a little bit more, you can watch that. Or if you're just here for the Sister Wives, then let's jump into it and talk about it. Because we are finally at Season 3, Episode 1. And, I'm going to pretend that this episode doesn't really infuriate me. So let's hop in there. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Cozy. I like to talk about Sister Wives here on YouTube. I do like to remind you these videos are for entertainment purposes only. These are not facts. They are just my opinions about public figures sharing their lives publicly. So if we're cool, we're cool. All right. So this episode has a lot of things that bug me, and maybe some of them are stupid or like unfair. Okay, but I get it. Okay, I'm angry at a little bit of how this went down. Okay, so Robin shares with us that when she and Cody first found out she was pregnant, that they had a lot of discussions about who to tell, when to tell them, how to tell the family. And she's like, should I tell Mary first and by herself? And Cody's like, that might be a good thing to do. So I am on board 100% with having this private conversation with Mary. Giving her that grace and that space to have her feelings and to allow her to express those feelings however she needs to express them is fantastic. But that is sort of where my positive feelings stop with this announcement, because Robin's not wrong. This does call for extra sensitivity because Mary does need to know that somebody cares how she feels. There can be a lot of hurt feelings when the reaction to news like this comes out. And so you need to be able to be excited for yourself and understand the other person's feeling. Like when I was pregnant with the twins, I had somebody in my life that was experiencing some infertility at the time, and I needed to tell them that I was pregnant, and they were really unkind and hurtful about it. Said some things that were really just out of pocket hurtful. And I carry some of those harsh things that they said with me still, and I do find it sometimes hard to forgive. Like, I understand how much anger and pain came through that, and now this individual has a couple of kids of their own. Things are much better, but it can be hurtful. It can be hard to hear those things, but in the moment, the only thing I could do was give that person grace and space and say, you know what? I'm excited. You're allowed to feel angry. You're allowed to feel hurt. You're allowed to not feel excited. It doesn't mean the things they said didn't hurt me and don't still hurt me sometimes, but it does mean that it's okay to just smile and try to be there for them and work through your feelings on your own time too. So, I've been in that Robin position to some extent, if that makes sense. So I know the fear, the concern that comes from sharing that thing that, hey, I'm really excited about this, and this person is not happy for you, and you already know that going in. That can be really stressful. But she needed Mary to know that she was okay if Mary wasn't okay. I felt the same way. But then she just sort of drops the hammer, and she's like, I'm expecting. No real lead-in, just drops the hammer. And Mary says, yay, in this little tiny voice. But it feels like while she might be excited for Robin, there is a little sadness there. And Robin's like, I'm so worried about telling you. In fact, instead of really, I don't feel like she read the room very well. She just gets like super excited and starts talking about all the things. And on the couch, Mary's like, Robin is so sensitive. And it didn't surprise me at all that Robin wanted to discuss this with me in private. But Mary's like, I feel bad that this is an issue that affects me so much that it affects other people. I don't want people to wear kid gloves with me. So we jump back to the ladies talking, and it really feels like Robin is hammering home how hard this is for Mary. And it's like, oh my gosh, I don't think I'd have gone there myself. I think that probably was not a great move. Like, I know how hard this is for you. It's so hard, blah, blah. I probably would have been like, I understand that you may have a lot of feelings about this, and you are allowed to feel them. I will be here for you however I can. And then dropped it, because that probably is the best way to handle that. And so Mary's like, I've never been upset when Janelle or Christine were pregnant. I just would be sad for myself. And she's like, I don't feel like that with Robin. I feel happy. And she's like, having a baby now would be completely starting over. I think Mary really is in this arc at that time where she's recognizing that it would be a complete start over. She has a child who is about ready to leave the house, and now having a baby would be, I mean, it would be a complete overhaul of her whole life. So they're agreeing that they're both excited. Mary's like, I want to join you in baby shopping and all the other excitement. Robin's about 6 weeks along, and she wants to tell everyone that night at dinner. And she's like, my kids will be so excited. So Mary's trying to hype her up, and she's like, all the kids will be. Which that might have been true historically. But so Mary says she was actually genuinely surprised how little it did bother her and how excited she actually was for Robin. And Cody's like, I really like the idea of Robin telling Mary first because Robin and Mary are so close. Sort of implying that Janelle and Christine aren't close enough to be let in, but I don't think that that's the point. It is interesting looking through the season 18 goggles and seeing just how much that closeness didn't stay or doesn't seem as real now. When you look back and you're like, these two seem like they're good friends, but it doesn't seem as real now. So Robin's like, she's overjoyed and she is just relieved that Mary's happy. And she is looking forward to finding out the gender of her baby. She's never done it before. With my first, I told everyone, I don't know, I was probably, anybody who knew that I was pregnant early on, 6, 7 weeks, maybe even 8. For those people, the few people who knew, I was like, oh, it's a boy. Like, I know. I was not wrong. I just knew. With the twins, we picked out boy names and one girl name. But I was like, listen, whatever one is, they both are. And my husband was like, you can't know that. I was like, no, they're not. This is a set. This is a set. Like, this isn't 1 and 1. And I wasn't wrong. Both girls. But I don't know why, but I just knew it wasn't a 1 and 1 situation. And I wish that we could have another one, because I have some cute boy names picked out. Like, cute boy names. And, yeah, unfortunately that's not going to work. But if anybody out there wants to name their kid Lachlan, I love that name. You can have that one on me now. But Mary says she never wanted to know ahead of time. She loves the surprises. And Robin's like, whoa, I would have thought that you'd want to know so you could plan. And listen, I don't know that I could have waited to find out since I was so dead set. I think, honestly, I only found out because I just wanted to prove to everybody that I was right. Like, I feel like that was... Waiting as long as you do to get that scan seems long enough to me, really. But everyone starts piling in, and Cody is like, so how'd it go? And Mary just sort of smiles, doesn't answer, but says to Robin, oh, he's beaming. And he is. He definitely is. And Robin's like, listen, wives will completely put the idea of a physical relationship between their husband and another wife out of their head. But a baby sort of just makes that kind of impossible. And Janelle's like, it's really just a confirmation of a full relationship with another wife. And they leave it at that. Which, frankly, I don't know that any of them ever really expressed feeling like it was so weird or awkward or unpleasant. I just wonder sometimes if coming in, Robin looked at all the stereotypes of what she saw from sister wives inside of her community and just sort of applied it to the Brown family without actually asking if that was their reality. So they're still in the kitchen and Robin asks Mary and Cody, do you want me to leave so you guys can kiss hi? I think that makes it way more awkward. Either just walk away or don't say anything. Like, honestly, it's just weirder to me. So Robin turns her back and Mary kisses Cody real quick. And they discuss when and how they're going to tell everyone. And Robin's like, I cannot eat dinner if we wait. So we got to talk. We got to do it because I'm going to be too nervous to eat. So they agree that they're going to gather everyone up and say it. And Robin's talking about how there are these huge butterflies in her stomach because she didn't know how everyone would react. Fair. Cody gets everyone together and he's like, this is the first time we're all in Mary's house. And it's pointed out this is the first family dinner since the vacation rental. They have not all eaten together since then. And they cut it to Robin saying she was so nervous and she wasn't sure what to think. And of course she's crying on the couch because Robin. I mean, this is an emotional thing. So to be fair, this is one of the few times where she's crying that it doesn't feel completely out of place. So Cody tells everybody, before we eat, I want to say that we're all gathered for a special occasion. And the way he says this is really awful. Honest to goodness. I don't know if he could have picked a worse way. He says, in 7.5 months, truly won't be the little one. Now, some of the kids look surprised, some look confused, because he didn't actually say what's happening. He didn't say that Robin was having a baby. So everyone's just sort of looking around at each other, trying to figure out what's going on. And he finally says, Robin's going to have a baby. And it is pretty darn quiet. I'm not gonna lie. It's quiet. Except for Christine, who never cared about Robin, cheering and hugging her. And Robin's like, I thought 1 down with this sigh of relief. 2, you already told Mary and she was fine. But then we get Robin explaining that a couple of the teenagers didn't say anything and wouldn't even look at her. And she starts calling out the kids by name who didn't smile. She's like, it stung because she wasn't sure what to think. Here's the deal. I refuse to call out the kids like that because I'm not going to give them crap for having feelings. Their whole lives were uprooted. You're talking about family that is not together the way that they used to be. You're talking about how they were all cramped into this vacation rental. Now they're all separated. Everything is new. Everything is stressful. And you're saying, here's a new baby on top of that. Sorry. This is a lot. Whether it's because one mom isn't pregnant and another one is, or because everybody feels like there are enough kids in the family, they're stressed about their living situation, they're stressed out about the number of siblings they already have. These kids feel how they feel. And granted, we look at them now and we see that everybody just wants their siblings around regardless, but it is so easy to feel so distressed in that moment that you can't crack a smile. And Robin's like, I was so excited about this baby that I'm nervous about feeling sad about it, or others feeling sad about it. Fair. That's fair. You can feel that way. That's okay. As long as you can recognize that other people are allowed to have their feelings too. We cannot dictate how others feel, and even though it's okay to feel badly, about how they feel, you can't make them cheer and be excited. So she continues to harp on these kids who are just not excited enough. And we see that ongoing every time, especially when she announces the next pregnancy, that it's still a continuing factor. And Robin says she knows how much children bind families together. And she's like, are you okay with me permanently being here? Because we're permanently bound now. And it's super sad to hear that and then look back and see how things have played out. How things have played out. Because we are getting kids left and right bringing up how their dad and Robin have elected to keep distance from them. And she goes on to point out that Janelle didn't immediately run up and hug her like Christine did. And she told herself, I have to be okay with that because, I don't know. But to me, it's obvious she's not okay with it. She seems to make this point to call out by name anybody who didn't cheer and get excited and feel the way she wanted them to feel. That's my perception of this. It may not be the case, but it does feel like she wanted to call out by name so that everybody knew you didn't do a good enough job being happy for me. I really think that she honestly thought that it would just be Mary she'd have to get past. Maybe Janelle, but I think that she really thought all of the kids would be so super excited that she wouldn't have to worry about it. And like I said, maybe at one point they would have been. But of course, when Janelle goes on to explain her worries about finances, how the changes with the move have been so difficult for her, she even begins to tear up at this point. Janelle is going through a lot. We know she went through a lot. The effects of losing her job and her stability were always on her mind. Her kids were struggling. She was super unbalanced, which is completely unlike her. And Christine is so understanding when she says, my life hasn't changed that much. I went from being in one house to being in another house. But your life completely uprooted. She recognizes that Janelle is in a place where she is feeling so unstable as far as her financial footing, how her kids are feeling. She was able to recognize how badly Janelle has been affected by this whole move and give her the grace and the patience. And Janelle explains her career has been such a big part of her identity, and she feels like she is just in complete free fall. And she's admitting her struggle and how hard it is on her little family too. So this is where Janelle shares all of her struggles with Hunter with the move, and I think it's unfortunately relevant because I hate bringing up how hard things were for him. But they've made it such a forefront in this season that it's hard to ignore because he really did struggle. And Cody wants to speak with him. It's not going to go well. They would have been better off having Christine try to speak to him because she spent so long with Janelle's kids that he may have actually just felt more comfortable talking to her in general because it's obvious that he is upset with his mom and his dad. And Cody's trying to push him to join the football team here in Vegas, as he had been on the football team in Utah, and that is clearly a no. And he's like, well, the football you're playing back in Utah is the same here. Does Cody think that when you cross state lines, football completely changes? Because, bro, it's the same across the U.S., I promise you. Now, if you'd gone to Canada, football is different there. It is different. But it's just such a weird thing to be like, yeah, it's the same football you were playing in Lehigh. Duh. So Cody keeps pushing, and on the couch he says that raising teens is difficult because you never get feedback on if you're doing it right or not. Well, I mean, you kind of do. He doesn't know whether or not to give him a push or give him space, and I think in this moment, Hunter needs grace, not space. He kind of does need a little bit of a push. He needs to know that somebody wants the best for him, but I think what he needs is the grace to have his feelings, but also Cody kind of needs to recognize what does Hunter need a push into. So, husband played football. I was in the marching band. And of course, team sports, and I include marching band in that team sports umbrella, are very tight-knit oftentimes. You don't mess with the kids in my section. If I'd moved schools, I think I probably would have walked away from marching band. It wouldn't be the same. You have all this time together. You learn these specific traditions that are for your school. They're for your band. They're for your football team. This is where you feel you belong. You spend all that time and energy together. And I can imagine how hard that would be to translate to a no location. I didn't have to do it. And I got lucky. So maybe the push isn't to join a different team in this moment in time. Maybe it's a different push, a more gentle push to try and help him. You can tell everyone's super frustrated with Hunter's situation, but it's definitely out of concern and not out of malice. And then we jump immediately to the first home church over at Mary's house. There's no real follow-up to that, just Mary's house. And I'm going to give them a small amount of credit for still dressing up for home church, because most people would have been like, I'll be in my PJs, we aren't going to see other people. But the music is very somber and out of place for this. It's just so weird to hear this super somber music about home church. And listen, the other part of this is that every boy is wearing printed button-downs, and I just keep forgetting that was apparently a huge thing at one point. And Maddie is very clearly not on board with going. And she was consistently the most vocal about not necessarily believing in her church practices, so that doesn't surprise me. And then we hop over to Christine's, and I am not surprised also to hear Gwen say she isn't going. But Christine's like, you are going. Because it's not your choice. She says, your choice is your attitude. And I think that's reasonable. I could get all bent out of shape and be like, she shouldn't have to go. But the reality is, she's not old enough to stay home alone. She's not. She's a child. And for that reason, she needs to go and be with the rest of the family. I understand that she may not want to sit there. She may not want to listen. I am not asking her to follow the faith and practices. I am just asking her to be with other people because she's not old enough to be home alone. Listen, my oldest will say all the time, I don't want to go. He's like, I don't want to go to church. But on weeks where I'm like, okay, well, when husband couldn't go when he was working nights before, I'd be like, okay, you can go. And then he's like, oh, no, I never said I wasn't going. I just said I didn't want to. And would go with us anyway. I don't know. Kids are weird. Kids are weird. But the kid who is the most adamant about not going and actually got away with not going is McKelty. And I think based off of their beliefs, her critique is entirely valid. McKelty draws the line at having church filmed. These kids have been taught from a young age that services are not for the public, so to speak. I think the phrase that I hear tossed around a lot in the online sphere when discussing these things is sacred, not secret. So it's not a secret, but it's sacred, so you're not supposed to open it up to the public, but it's not a secret. Yeah, I hear that a lot, and so I guess that's what we're going to go with. And McKelty is not backing down when Cody calls her. And when she explains herself, and he's like, listen, I'm glad you're willing to express God's opinion, but I disagree with you. Okay, fair. You guys have differing theological opinions on this topic, but the veiled sarcasm in his response is not going to change her heart and mind. She was not necessarily trying to be the mouthpiece of God in this situation. She was trying to tell you what you have taught her entire life and how she feels you are violating that. He's like, listen, I don't agree with her, but she sold it to me, and I've always told the kids they have to sell it to me, and so I'm just going to focus on the kids that are attending. And he then says that we focus on the value of what we have control over. I want to know what that means to him, because what he's saying to me, it comes across, especially now, as only valuing the kids that he is able to control, that he is there and able to dictate either their movements or whatever, and I don't like it. He wants to be able to say, do this, and they do it. Do that, and they do it. And maybe it's a season 18 lens, again, that I'm looking through, because I do look through the season 18 goggles. It's impossible not to at this point. But he says similar things now about valuing things that are under his control. And he's always talking about valuing the kids still in his household. And I hate that this would mean that he thought this about his children then, as young as they were. But it does, now looking back, it does come across not cool at all. So we get quite the explanation of how Cody is trying to create more stability by having home church. He says he doesn't think that there's a parent out there that's religious that doesn't worry about their kids' spiritual well-being, and he's not wrong. I want to make sure my kids know what we believe, but in the end, I'm not able to make that choice for them. I'm just not. I can't tell my kids, you have to think and believe the same way I do. Whether it's religion, politics, anything. I am not here to tell my children they have to think like that too. I'm not here to tell you guys you have to think like I do, because that's not the way the world works. I mean, in the end, we all make our choices, and whether or not we all agree is fine as long as we're respectful to one another. I'm not one of those people that's going to just like shut you down because you don't agree with me. It's interesting to hear Christine talk about what a priority having services together is, especially her body language, because she's looking down and shifting a bit in her seat. And in an interview she did last year, she mentioned she was the first one to stop believing in their church. So I wonder when that started for her, whether or not she was having some ticklings at this point of maybe not thinking that this was the right way, or if she was just uncomfortable in that moment. So I'm going to cut it here and come back for a second part of this, because some of you guys mentioned that you prefer having the videos a little bit shorter and doing parts 1 and 2, and so I'm going to test that for this. If we hate it, we'll go back to the long form format. If we like it, we'll keep it this way, but we're going to cut there for just a second, because I think that this is an interesting segue into the next part, because the episode does feel a touch disjointed. We have Robin's pregnancy announcement at the beginning, and then we jump right into one of the kids really struggling, and then we jump right into home church. And the next parts don't really seem to fit in either. In fact, watching all of it, I was like, what in the world am I watching? How does this all fit together in one storyline? And then the next episode, if I remember correctly, the next episode is a really short one, so we should be able to knock that out in just one video. So I'll cut it here, and we'll just kind of marinate on the weird everything we've talked about so far. And then I will come back with part 2. If you're lucky, I'll even put part 2 up in the same day. We'll see. I'm not sure. It may, depending on how quickly they upload, it may be separate times. So I've really missed you guys. I am so excited to be back. I'm just trying to catch back up. Like I said in my I'm going to call it an apology video for lack of a better term, because I really did say I was sorry for being gone. I'm just in a lot of pain. My head is in a lot of pain. My eyes are in a lot of pain. The light from my ring light hurts. The light from the ceiling hurts more than the light from my ring light. So we're going to use that, the ring light, to do these videos. You're going to notice that it's going to be darker than normal in here at times. That's because I'm in pain. Looking up at the camera can hurt because the ring light's right there too. So if you notice me looking everywhere but into the lens, it's because my eyes are in a lot of pain. Not because I don't want to see you guys, not because I want to look stupid. I'm just in pain. Other than that, I really don't have much else. I'm super stoked and super excited to be back at this. I know it's not going to be that much longer. What is it, next month, the month after? And we're going to be jumping back into season 19. I am not necessarily looking forward to season 19. I'm hoping that it takes a direction that is not too upsetting. I'll leave it at that. I'm hoping that's the case. So, other than that, I can't wait to see you guys again soon. Look for part 2. Bye!